Hello and welcome to Boxer Box TV. I'm your host Pete Diz, and today I will be talking to you about a very complex subject matter, and that obviously it's going to be hard to get to the bottom of it in the space of 10 minutes, but I'm going to give it my best shot and just give you some of my basic opinions on the subject matter. And this subject matter is, where are the world-class players from England? Where are England's world-class players? So let's jump straight into it since time is pressing. Last week, the FIFA World 11 team was announced, and in that team it was quite noticeable that there were no players from England, or from the current England setup. And I asked myself, were there actually any players deserving from the current England setup to be included in that World 11 team? And my answer was no. And when I asked myself, were there any players that were deserving to be in that World 11 team subs bench if there was one, or sitting on that subs bench if there was one, and it was no. And I asked myself, if there was a reserve World 11 team, would there be any English players that were deserving? And the answer is still it's a resounding no. So what I want to talk about now is why I believe that this is the case. So let's talk about the front six players of the FIFA World 11 team. In midfield you had Toni Kroos first off. Let's talk about him quickly. Very technically proficient player, passing accuracy and consistency, set pieces, long range shooting ability at close quarters. He's a world class talent. He's pretty much a footballing metronome. Again, on Andres Iniesta, the next player I want to talk about, very technically proficient. What can I say about this guy? What can't I say about him? You know, he's technically he's off the charts, dribbling, passing, positional awareness, link up player, through balls. You know, he can do it all. He can do it all in an attacking sense. He's a wonderful player. The third player in the midfield is Angel Di Maria. Pace, agility, a goal threat, assists. His left foot is a wand, as they say. Technically very proficient. He is a world-class talent. Up front, let's talk about the front three. You have Cristiano Ronaldo, complete player, technically very proficient, physically very, very, very strong and capable, but technically very proficient. Lionel Messi, technically very, 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 very good. One of the best of his generation, if not the best. Wonderful player. Not much more to say about him. He's world class. End of. Arjen Robben, technically very proficient, very, very fast, a goal threat, wonderful player, world class. And one thing that these players all have in common is that technically they are excellent. They are excellent players, each and every one of them. Those front six in that World 11 team. Yeah, I don't really want to go into the defensive players because I think it's a altogether different subject, and it's almost a different sport in terms of what's required of a good defender, in terms of a good midfielder and a good attacker. It's very different. But technically, that front six in that World 11 team, they're technically all amazing players. And it dawned on me that in England we don't really appreciate that. There was a video that I watched. It was a John Barnes documentary that was made over 20 years ago, maybe 24 years ago. It's on YouTube. I'll try and put a link to it in this video. And they were asking him at the time. John Barnes was clearly the most talented player in the England setup. But they were asking him, why did he not perform in an England shirt at the same level that he performed for in a Liverpool shirt? And he made the point that he just didn't believe that the England team played to his strengths. At Liverpool, they were used at that time. Liverpool were a very dominant team, and they were used to playing a possession-based game at that time. And England were never about the possession-based game. It was always about the kick and rush, pretty much. And relied on the physical capabilities of a player. And today that's probably still the case. It's not a possession-based game. We're moving closer towards that, but it's still not based on a possession-based game. And your technical players are not going to benefit from that. It's that simple. So 20 years on, over 20 years on, that's still the case. Your best technical players are not being given the chance to perform at their optimum best because the tactics are wrong. Okay, let's quickly look at Wayne Rooney. He is probably currently the best England player at present. At 16, 17, he was probably the best 16, 17-year-old player that I've seen play in terms of his ability to affect a game and dominate and dictate and influence a game at that age. Physically, he was very mature at that age, and he was a very, very good player at that age. Today, he's still a very good player at the age of 28, 29, but he has not progressed in any way, shape, or form. In a sense, he's more mature mentally, but technically, I don't believe that he's progressed since then. And even physically, not really. I don't believe that he's a very much different player. And that's indicative of the philosophy in developing players in England. It's all about finding physically ready and capable, mature players at youth level. That is due to, I think, fear from coaches and scouts who not producing winning youth teams that compete. So rather than go for the long-term project in developing a technical player and turning that technical player into an athlete, they try to turn the dominating athlete into a player. And short-term wise, it's probably easier and to do so. It's harder to develop it's not necessarily harder, but it takes more time to develop the prodigious, technically gifted player into a world-class athlete, and see the rewards from that, because it takes time for that player to develop physically, and that time is not really, you can't really control that. You don't have much control over that, and that's the case. You look at that. I mentioned that front six on purpose because I believe all of them were not dominating physically at the age of 16, 15 or whatever. They're all players that were brought through and turned into world-class athletes. Even Cristiano Ronaldo, who is now physically a monster, he was, his transformation from the player that was bought from Lisbon to the player that is at Real Madrid now is phenomenal, because he's worked at it and it's taken time. So in short, I believe that changing philosophies, turning a footballer into an athlete is probably the correct ideology in England, because there are plenty of talented footballers. So there you have it. That's my opinion. Obviously, I can't cover everything. I need about an hour or two to cover everything. But that's my immediate observation of why we don't have the world-class players in England. But anyway, add, rate, subscribe. Thank you. Bye-bye.